And before we get you that big cricket explosive interview, let's get you up to date with some breaking news coming in. As per CBI sources, the role of the Special Task Force, the STF, in the investigation of Vyapam scam is highly suspicious. And they have done everything to cover up the case. According to sources, most of the arrests made by the STF are supposedly of students who paid hefty amount to get admission. Joining me on the phone line is Deputy Editor Atir Khan with more details. Atir, get us up to speed with what more are you learning from these sources?
Well, the CBI sources are telling us that the investigation which is carried out by the STF is not up to the mark, and it has been done, it appears, selectively. That's a prima facie, observation of the CBI officers who are yet to go in depth into the investigations. But what appears so far is that clearly some persons were identified and they were made accused, while there was also tremendous pressure on those who were made accused to shell out money so that they could be, taken out from the cases. So that has come out so far. The police will have to be, accountable to the omissions or yes, deliberate, omissions which have been made in the investigation.
Many thanks, Atir Khan, for getting us up to date with it. Very, very serious allegation being levelled against STF officials that they were asking huge amounts to save Vyapam accused from the case. But this, remember, is a source-based information at the moment. We'll have to see, of course, as and when the CBI probe progresses, whether there is any truth as well to this information that is coming out and if it could be proved or not. Okay, now let's get you that big India Today exclusive. Former BCCI president and one of the most respected names in cricket administration, Shashank Manohar, has finally broken his silence. He has broken his silence for the first time after the Lodha verdict on the IPL mess. And Shashank Manohar has strong words against the inaction of the BCCI and the role of his successor, N. Srinivasan. Listen into this exclusive interview by India Today's consulting editor sports, Boria Majumdar.
If there is any person in this BCCI who has impeccable credentials and integrity, and who the country listens to, happens to be Shashank Manohar. And the last time I actually asked Mr. Manohar, when did you give a television interview? And he said he doesn't remember. So not often does Shashank Manohar speak out about any issue. In fact, the last time he did so was during Lalit Modi's suspension by him as BCCI president. Mr. Manohar, it's a rare occasion that we get you to speak. Are you disappointed with the way the board has conducted itself? Is it soft pedaling on the issue?
Actually speaking, according to me, there is a total inaction on the part of the board since 2013 when the scandal broke. Till today, I don't find any major decision taken by the board with regard to improve the reputation and credentials of the board, or either clean up this mess or to eradicate corruption. And presently, as all of us are watching, the job of the board is being done by the courts, and which is really bad for the image and reputation of the board.
So what should be done? I mean, because you met Mr. Dalmia last night, you've advised him on certain matters. When you say the courts are doing the board's job, what do you think should be done?
According to me, the board has to be proactive. The board has to look to the interest of the game of cricket and the institution instead of looking to the interest of certain individuals, because the game and the board is always bigger than any individual.
Is that individual Mr. Srinivasan? Are you alluding to Mr. Srinivasan?
Obviously, because since 2013, he is in the midst of every scandal which is happening in this board.
3 straight final questions, Mr. Manohar. Should Mr. Srinivasan step down at this point in time for the sake of Indian cricket on grounds of moral propriety?
According to me, he ought to have stepped down in 2013 itself, which I had said then, because no individual can put himself ahead of an institution, howsoever great, efficient he might feel, because the institution in the game is always bigger. Because of his continuance, the image and the reputation of the board is seriously damaged, and the perception of the people in this country is that this board wants to wrap everything under the carpet and do nothing.
The other person who is being investigated by the Lodha committee is Mr. Sundaraman. You know, we've got the first part of the report which has suspended 2 teams for 2 years. Now Mr. Sundaraman is being investigated as IPL CEO. He represented the board in that Barbados meeting. Are you of the opinion that Mr. Sundaraman ought to have also stepped down for the sake of perception, at least for the sake of Indian cricket?
According to me, the public perception is that Mr. Sundaraman is also involved. I am not here to decide whether Sundaraman is guilty or not guilty. But when the public perception is that he is involved, for the image of the board, as I always said, that no individual is bigger than the game or the institution, Sundaraman ought to have stepped down himself on his own accord when there were allegations made against him.
Final question. Very importantly, the BCCI has said that it will analyze the recommendations of the Lodha committee, rather not the recommendations, the findings of the Lodha committee, and then maybe form a subgroup on Sunday, come the IPL Governing Council. But if we understand from the Supreme Court's order, the recommendations of the findings are binding. So what do you have to say to that? The BCCI will examine and then implement.
According to me, nothing is to be examined, because the Supreme Court judgment says that whatever are the recommendations of Lodha committee, they are final and binding as far as the board is concerned. So there is no question of board looking into the recommendations of Lodha committee. The only option which is left with the board is to accept the recommendations as they are, without anything further.
So do you think the recommendations are anti-IPL, or can IPL take this as an opportunity and the BCCI take this as an opportunity, get its house in order and move on?
According to me, the BCCI should take this opportunity and clean up its own house, because it's still long way for the next IPL season. So the BCCI should take all steps to again reimpose faith in the minds of the public and the cricket fans that IPL is a clean tournament and there is no fixing.
I don't think any board official in recent times has had such scathing words and words of caution for an institution that governs Indian cricket. One can only hope that Mr. Manohar's words will be taken seriously, will be implemented at the shortest possible opportunity, and perhaps Indian cricket will learn a few things and improve its image and its credentials in the near future. Because if there is somebody who can speak with authority and impeccable integrity on Indian cricket, it happens to be Shashank Manohar. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for speaking to me. Thank you.
So you heard that exclusive interview here first, and exclusively, of course, on India Today. Shashank Manohar, cricket's Mr. Clean, Mr. No Nonsense, the former president of BCCI, speaking to Boria Mazumdar and mincing no words really. He does not come on TV. Boria Mazumdar, consulting editor sports, is with us at the moment on the phone line. Also joining me from the newsroom is our correspondent Radhika Tongar. But Boria, barring that bluntly worded statement that, of course, Mr. Manohar had issued in November of last, clearly he has not come out on TV and he has spoken. And he has spoken in a way where he has minced no words, be it about Srinivasan, Sundaraman or the BCCI as a whole.
Absolutely, Smita. I mean, this is one man who you would want to listen to, because he is above all suspicion, above all corruption charges. I mean, he is one man who has impeccable credentials to come out and speak. And the last time, in fact, I asked Mr. Manohar, when did you last speak to television? He said that never. The last time he spoke on TV was a press conference, not a one-on-one interview, was when he suspended Lalit Modi on charges of corruption. So to get Shashank Manohar to speak on all these issues was really important. I think he makes some very, very important statements of caution, and the BCCI should learn a lesson or two, because he says Mr. Srinivasan ought to step down, Sundaraman ought to step down. He says Mr. Dalmia should be far more proactive and govern the board in a manner whereby fans' faith is restored. He says the BCCI has no option but to implement the Lodha committee recommendations. So here's one person who is clear-cut, is giving you a direction, and as one of the former presidents of the board and perhaps the man who this country listens to, one thinks that it will have impact on the board.
You know, but Boria, while of course he is coming out with these suggestions, you know, there are a couple of things that he has said. He says that yes, Srinivasan should have stepped down in 2013 itself, that Sundaraman should have stepped on his own, and that this is an opportunity, not really about the IPL mess, but the BCCI to clean up its own house. But he's also a man who has also been considered a Sharad Pawar loyalist, who took the mantle from Sharad Pawar when Pawar went on to become the ICC vice president. So do you think that in a way his words by BCCI members might not be taken too kindly also?
No, I mean, you know, all said and done, when Sharad Pawar is considered close to Mr. Modi, and Shashank Manohar was the one who came out and suspended Lalit Modi. And at this point in time, if anybody is considered or taken seriously by BCCI members across the board, I mean, not Sharad Pawar loyalists or Dalmia loyalists or Srinivasan loyalists, it has to be Shashank Manohar. I mean, Rajiv Shukla, for example, I mean, is one person who I can tell you will take Mr. Manohar extremely seriously as IPL chairman. Anurag Thakur, if you were there in the Calcutta Working Committee meeting on 26th of April 2015, if there is one person who Anurag Thakur will take with utmost seriousness, it has to be Mr. Manohar. Because he was the one who raised his voice against the Chennai Super Kings for 5 lakh story that we broke. He was the voice who raised, he was the one who fought in that meeting saying the BCCI must seek legal opinion on the Chennai Super Kings 5 lakhs issue and cannot brush it under the carpet. Right. So, this is an important voice in Indian cricket, and in the post-Lodha scenario, where Indian cricket, every day the BCCI's image is getting a battering, finally we see someone who is saying, yes, we are at fault, yes, so-and-so things need to be done, yes, the board needs to be far more proactive. Hopefully, these words will be implemented by the BCCI mandarins in the near future.
Absolutely. Many thanks, Boria Majumdar, for having joined us. And clearly, as the BCCI so far, Radhika, the kind of reactions that have come in, it almost seemed like people were trying to save each other's back. But here is a man who's speaking out so clearly, just for the sake of the benefit of the viewers who are cricket lovers, but perhaps don't understand the cricket action behind the scenes. Tell us, what makes Shashank Manohar the man he is? He has also proposed some radical reforms in the past.
Yes, Smita, of course, Shashank Manohar, when he was heading the BCCI, he was considered as one of the most prolific administrator. He was considered as a no-nonsense person, like you had said. He's the one who took that action against Lalit Modi as well. So he's had a past wherein he's not taken lightly to any sort of charges which demean the game of cricket. And that is what he said very clearly in this interview also, that it is time for the BCCI to get their house in order. And for somebody who's known to have had a clean image, for somebody who was a president who led the board during